Hi, it's Frank, and this week I'm doing a vlog for And Then We Danced. The main point of this film was Marab's expression of himself as a queer man, uh, even in a country and society that is more conservative and, not necessarily accepting of his identity at a face value. For example, like the dance instructor, he often tells Marab that his movements are too kind of flowy and feminine, and the way his hands move are not the way that they should. But that is like he's obviously practiced dance, the Georgian traditional dance, for a long time, and is very good at it, and it's his interpretation, it's his production of the dance, and his way of doing it, but it's not accepted by society necessarily. But at the end, in the last scene where he's doing the tryout, I think his dance instructor kind of sees like his individualization and like the beauty of what he's done, and also like exploring his relationship through somebody like Irakli, and them both experiencing kind of queer sex and being together in a queer way, and how does that all work when you're in a country like Georgia, and especially when you're doing like Georgian traditional dance and you're supposedly upholding all the traditions of Georgia. Um, and I kind of think even like anyway, on the next question, in what ways is this a queer film? So I think off the bat, like Merab's job and lifestyle as a dancer, as a man, I think although it is normal, I still think that it is somewhat seen as a kind of feminine thing to do, to be a dancer. Although there are like strong binaries shown in Georgian dance, um, that is kind of one queer aspect of the film. Also, the lighting of the film is beautiful, uh, especially in the scene where it's Marab and Irakli having sex. The golden lighting showing on them, like expressing how he feels, and just the way that Marab's just becomes so much more bubbly and stuff after he starts seeing Irakli. There's also, it's a queer film in the way that Marab has to pretend to be in a straight relationship, even though he truly, I think, does love his girlfriend Mary. I think in a lot of ways he doesn't have like the sexual feelings for her. It doesn't seem, at least in the one scene where he turns down having sex in the park, and he's like, it needs to be somewhere special, even though later in the film he literally has sex with a Rockley for the first time, like behind a rock, hiding from everyone at the house. So like, it becomes clear that in more like that definitely was special for him, but the place and like everything wasn't necessarily so set up. So having to pretend like that, and then the way that I think his girlfriend, or Mary, I don't know if they're still dating or not at the end of the film, but the way that she like took him back and like accepted him and wanted to help him, that was definitely a take, and like something that doesn't always happen with queer films. Um, so then evaluate the costumes. So I mean the clothes that the dancers wear is kind of it shows a lot of kind of the tops of the chest, and like uh, it's somewhat queer, I'd say, but it's still pretty like uniform, just black regular textures. I think a lot of the queer fashion is shown in the like when he meets the street workers, and then goes to the clubs with his friend. A lot of the outfits that people were wearing there in these like confined in the clubs, in these dark spaces away from like society's prying eyes. At the one gay club that they go to, also there's a lot of gay fashion shown there, and Mariam was telling me that's actually like the only gay bar in all of Georgia. So you know that was the one place if you're a queer person and you want to express who you are without the fear of being um, found out or exposed, that would be the place to do it. And I think like Marab's experience of hanging out with the street workers and going to the clubs and stuff was a very like affirming experience for him. And as a dancer, he was dancing and having a good time and felt at home with those people, with the people at the club. What did I like about the film? Oh man, it was a great film. I think they really increased your connection with Marab through watching him dance so much. There were really, really long dance scenes, but you could read his emotions and struggles he was having through watching his dance. And I think that was really amazing. And like, when at the end of the film, when he just kind of, when he stops listening to direction, just keeps dancing and dancing and dancing, he's kind of, realizing he's not going to be, his sexuality is never going to be accepted, and he's not, he cannot deny his sexuality any longer. And so it's expressed in him just kind of keep going and trying harder and trying harder. And then in the end, when he performs, when he tries out for the national ensemble, and he's performing on his ankle, on his I'm assuming broken ankle, at least fractured, and it's bleeding. Uh it's really powerful the way he goes through that. The film made me feel, I think, in the end, really happy because of the conversation that he had with his brother Zaza, where Zaza beats up some people for calling him the F slur, and then is like still accepting of him, even when Marab tells him that he is indeed, and he's like, you don't have a future here, like. But his relationship with his brother was confusing throughout the movie, and I just loved the way it got wrapped up at the end. And my experience with the subject matter, I had a lot of friends growing up near like a Bangladesh neighborhood, and also going to school with a lot of Chinese students. They had families that were a lot of times more socially conservative, or just because of their culture, they were not accepting of their queer identities, and so they would have to have these like fake straight relationships all the time, where even sometimes their partners would know that it wasn't real, and they just needed a relationship to show their parents that that they didn't have to question that they were straight or not. So that would be my personal experience, but me myself, I have not dealt with most of those things in the film. I will say though, like I grew up playing baseball, and I love baseball. It was probably my first passion, but I also played piano for just as long as I played baseball, and people on the baseball team and my coaches even would kind of make fun of me for playing piano and like calling it feminine and stuff, and so I can relate to uh, Marab and how his like dance form, how he's told his movements were too feminine. Yeah, it was a great movie though. Thank you, Professor Atay.